because we go back to the concept of psyops and how there are so many layers of it, right? It's kind of like in the past, we all thought that XRP was leading the charge because that's so public, but it's public for a reason. And you know, it's kind of like how Cranker used the analogy of XRP was like Trump. It took the slings and the arrows for the people. Well, XRP took the slings and arrows for the crypto industry. But and then he furthered that analogy, saying that XL, oh not XLM, but Stellar as a whole was like the Q team. They're behind the scenes and nobody really knows about them unless you're studying them. So if I borrow that analogy, I'm going to go one step further and say, well, the Q plan, right? So it's kind of like IBM is the Q plan. You can study it, but then what's actually behind the scenes governing the Q plan? It's the Q team. And so that's kind of, to me, the difference between Red Hat and IBM. So Red Hat, because it controls the software and it's being embedded into every single thing, it can then, well, I mean, that's what governance is, right? Like you can kind of say what works, what doesn't work, and put together all these rules that the bigger Q plan has to abide by to update it, right? That's the concept that we want people to start to really understand, because that's the power of open source. And it's so important because as you start to really learn more about Red Hat, IBM, and basically every company out there, if you've noticed, all these ICOs are the biggest tech companies in the world, and they're all coming into Stellar. That means for the first time, probably in history, you're not having companies competing with one another and saying, you're number one, I'm number two, how do I beat you? You're saying we have every top one out there. We're all going to work together for the betterment of humanity, which is completely mind-blowing. And that's how you know the white hats are in control, right? Because you're not talking about like antitrust laws at this point. it's open source, collaborative, that agile, right? That word that I always throw out. So hopefully you guys have all learned what agile means. Let's move on to the next topic and discuss, in your opinion, what is the difference between Red Hat and IBM? Because I think that can be also very confusing because IBM bought over Red Hat many years ago. I think it was in like 2019 or something. And if I remember correctly, it was their largest acquisition ever. So I think that most people believe if company A buys out company B, it's the same company, they do the same function, and that's the end of the story. It's because as an agent, you can go and you can extract information, be embedded into certain organizations. And so, one big hint that Ben with Stellar Russia has dropped in the past is that they have agents in like, I forgot what percentage he used, but it was like the vast majority. So way above 50% of companies all around the world, and a pretty large chunk of it too. So the Russians and their agents, right? So they're not always Russian people, right? It's their network. Their network has been embedded into almost every company in the world. So that's how they know exactly what's going on. And that's why their intelligence agency is so extensive. And that's why I laugh so much. But that being said,